Super Sonic vs. Hyper Knuckles. It starts with Sally saying that the Freedom Fighters have a visitor after seeing Knuckles on the TV monitor. Tails is just now telling his friends that he had met Knuckles' great-grandfather, and they don't even react to it either. So do they not believe him? Did they not believe him about his adventure, about the Tails miniseries in general? Which kind of makes the adventure pointless then if they didn't believe him about any of it. Does he have a history of making up stories to the point where they don't trust him? Speaking of lack of trust, Sonic immediately jumps to the conclusion that Knuckles is up to no good. I understand him not trusting Knuckles not to hurt him, but not this. Seeing Knuckles go to Robotropolis has Sonic assume that he's going to cut a deal with Robotnik for some reason. I really like how Sally says, "We don't know that," and just wants him to talk with Knuckles rather than assuming he's up to no good. Which I would kind of expect from someone so cautious, but this is really weird. It's like they have their roles reversed. You'd expect Sally, the cautious and careful one, to be the one who's a lot more distrustful of Knuckles. And that's exactly what was the case in the Sonic and Knuckles story, where she complained that he was unpredictable. But it makes sense for Sonic to still hold a grudge for Knuckles from all those fights that would cloud his judgment. Does Tails really have to break the fourth wall by mentioning page 6? There's no reason to break the immersion like this. It's not funny. It's just a dry, we're in a comic book. Now laugh. We cut to Knuckles complaining about Eggman's pollution. Makes me absolutely hate him with an unnecessary spiel about how he thinks the Kid in Society was right to abandon technology and revert to being environmentally friendly. First of all, no society ever would fucking do that. Second, we don't need to abandon technology to be environmentally friendly. Green power does exist. And hey, there are Chaos Emeralds, literal green power, and I doubt they'd cause pollution. Just use those for energy. You don't need fossil fuels in a world with 50 billion Chaos Emeralds. And third, may I remind you that abandoning technology leads to reverting to the caveman days where people died at age 30 from childbirth or something stupid like that, where the medical technology was absolute crap? So many perfectly good people died because of a lack of good medical technology back then. But I guess Knuckles wouldn't care about that. Everyone threw away their asthma inhalers and heart pills and were all perfectly happy to live in nature like cavemen again. Why not? As long as that nasty evil technology is gone. And again, Knuckles isn't immediately told he's wrong and stupid for this either, so it's like we're supposed to agree with him. This comic was made by technology, you know. I'm sad to see that even though Knuckles is significantly younger than his great-grandfather and thus should be more open-minded than the senile old coot, he's just as bad as he is. Then we have a flashback where Knuckles tells Mighty that he had seen a Chaos Emerald broken in half in an earlier issue. And Mighty says in confusion that wouldn't that be impossible, since they're the ultimate energy source from what he sold him? While I understand why he thinks such cosmic keystones would be impossible to break in half by mere mortal hands, I call bullshit on Mighty only knowing about the emeralds being a great energy source because Knuckles had to tell him. I'm pretty sure everyone in the world knows about these things. And it was even stated in the Tails miniseries issue 3 that they were worshipped and used for technology throughout history. Why was Mighty so ignorant? And once again, I'm uncomfortable with the idea that we're supposed to just shrug it off that Knuckles has always been best buddies with the Chaotix, rather than us getting introduced to them in the very issue where Knuckles would realistically naturally form a friendship with them. Knuckles is a loner. That kind of antisocial character wouldn't logically want to be best buddies with the Chaotix like it's nothing. It feels forced. After Knuckles says that he's here because he wants to prevent a Chaos Emerald being cut in half again, he reveals that when his ancestors first raised the floating island into the sky, it was powered by a dozen Chaos Emeralds, but not anymore. Described by Knuckles' great-grandfather? No, it wasn't. I don't remember him saying anything about that interesting detail. Knuckles explains that the fact that now there's only one green gem in the central chamber worries him, which isn't explained in the story, by the way. So if the island needed a dozen emeralds to rise into the sky in the first place, why is it perfectly capable of floating just like before with only one? Maybe his ancestors overestimated the amount of emeralds they'd need to achieve that, and put too many emeralds in the chamber. Knuckles says that he doesn't want the last emerald of the island to fail because it could spell doom for everyone. Why? Does he think the island falling would kill everyone? No, that happened in the Sonic and Knuckles special and everyone was fine. Maybe he's irrationally afraid that if the island's in contact with the rest of the world for too long, it'd be invaded and destroyed. But what caused that last emerald to randomly fail? Why does he have so little faith in such a cosmic keystone? He explains that the Book of Myths might have some answer to where he can find another Chaos Emerald. So the book mentioned by Knuckles in the Sonic Triple Trouble special is used as a Chekhov's gun here, that's good. And now we get some more interesting lore introduced, where the book reveals that the Chaos Emeralds are somehow mystically linked to the magic rings found inside zones. The small region kind, not the universe. In the comic universe, there's actually a lake of rings which creates rings, and some say that the rings are a byproduct of the emeralds, while others say that the rings create the emeralds. Which we know is bullshit because a theory explained that the emeralds came first, crashing onto the land from outer space and causing the Ice Age. Not to mention, rings are obviously less powerful than Chaos Emeralds, so why would rings create the emeralds? It makes sense that some people wouldn't know the whole story though. Mighty reads that the lake's location is somehow lost to history, because apparently geographers just plain don't exist on Mobius. This is a very strange concept considering we live in a world where every square inch of it has been mapped out. Knuckles says that hope is not lost, and the key word is radiates, and gets a wild conspiracy theory that Robotropolis isn't radioactive because of pollution, but because of the lake that Eggman somehow hasn't found. I get that he's desperate, but this really comes out of nowhere for him. He goes to the city reasoning that where there's rings, there's emeralds, and Mighty brags that his matchless strength will keep the island safe while flexing his muscle-less noodle arms in a picture that makes Boom Knuckles' design a little easier to understand. Seriously, how the hell are we supposed to know this wimp has super strength? This looks like a joke. And again, I don't see Knuckles the antisocial loner easily trusting guarding the island to anyone. And this would have been more natural if he had actually seen their friendship start and saw why he came to trust Mighty so much in the first place. Knuckles leaves Mighty and gets suspicious because somebody thought a puddle was important enough to monitor. He says the equipment is long past useless because it's covered in cobwebs, but decides to look over the pond just in case, because he's smart enough to realize that looks may be deceiving. I like that. What I don't really like is Sonic starting a fight with him as if he's the aggressive, short-tempered one. The Sonic and Knuckles dynamic is kind of off if you portray the two characters as being too similar. Where's the contrast? Like, part of the whole appeal is that Sonic is the optimistic one who's joking around, and Knuckles is the serious one who starts fights. But if both of them are the angry, serious ones who start fights, well, I guess there's an appeal to that too, but it's not as interesting. I kinda like the idea of Sonic hating Knuckles and wanting to fight him, if only because Knuckles betrays him so many times in the games, but Sonic being too quick to distrust them is out of character. Sonic has a complete idiot moment, as well as an out-of-character moment, where he reads off of Sally's long letter offering Knuckles non-violent discussion after he had punched him, and expects Knuckles to just sit there and let him read it all without interrupting him. Since when is Sonic that obedient to Sally that he'd do this despite seeing no point to it? Whatever happened to being a free spirit? Why didn't he at least read it before hitting him? And remember, we saw Sonic just leave Knothole without a paper in his hand. But now all of a sudden he's got one? Where'd that come from? Did someone stop him from leaving so Sally could write the paper off screen? And Sonic's clearly unenthusiastic about this and doesn't even try to read all the writing, so it would have made more sense for him to not even bother with it. All he did was let Knuckles get a free hit in. We then get a few pages that waste our time with Sonic and Knuckles fighting uselessly. I like how they actually remember he has a super peel out and somehow uses it for fighting. Until Sally stops the fighting, being mediator. I would ask why the hell Knuckles recognizes Sally when he's been isolated on his island his whole life, but sadly this actually has an explanation later on that makes no fucking sense. So instead, the only thing that makes no sense is why he called her such a fancy formal title as princess if he's already familiar with her. She came here on a pink bike thing, I'm glad that was introduced, saying that when the landscape starts to suffer, she steps in. And she interrupts Sonic and Knuckles arguing by explaining that her portable computer Nicole is detecting some serious radiation. It at least makes some semblance of sense that Nicole would have had a radiation detector installed. That's at least making her knowledge grounded in reality, rather than her magically knowing everything for no reason. I'm glad she's back and being used properly. She was mysteriously absent for a while. Also, I like Sally being in this mediator role, mainly because she's being the perfect audience surrogate for people like me who find Sonic and Knuckles fighting to be a pointless waste of time. She explains how the radiation is coming from the hole in the ground where the tree was. So the lesson here is, it's a good thing Sonic fought Knuckles irrationally. Also, they never do discover a lake of rings in this issue. So, well, I guess it was interesting hearing about that myth, but it seemed kind of pointless other than just being an excuse for Knuckles to come here. The hole in the ground is revealed to be a gateway to an unknown zone, the region kind it's in, and it's full of magic rings and chaos emeralds. Naturally, Knuckles goes in right away, and Sonic goes in with him, surprisingly with Sally actually telling him to do it. And here's where the bullshit comes in. Sally apparently used to spend her summers with Knuckles, and Sonic is just as angry about it as I am. Normally, from what I've seen up to this point, I don't consider Sally to be a Mary Sue, but this is a huge shining example of a Mary Sue moment. Or I guess creator's pet moment more accurately, because she's hardly without flaws. I don't like the idea that Sally and Knuckles used to be best buddies and spent summers together. First off, Sally's hit from the games, so honestly strikes me as a bit of an OC fanfiction thing rather than being natural and believable that she'd have known him before the Robotnik taking over the world events happened. The events that are so famous of the comic. I have an easier time accepting Mighty and Vector being longtime friends of Knuckles, even though he is antisocial and paranoid of anyone not from his island, which leads me to my next point. Why did he ever trust Sally when she's not from his island? Why did he go all buddy-buddy with her instead of forever having a paranoid grudge of her like he has with Sonic? This is what I meant by Mary Sue moment. Why is only Sally allowed this privilege? And it makes absolutely no sense, most importantly of all, that Sally would have even been to the floating island to spend summers with Knuckles to begin with. Or that Knuckles would have inexplicably left the floating island and she'd meet him because of that, and that he'd be willing to abandon his guardian duties for several summers in a row just to hang out with her. Not to mention, didn't she talk like she had no idea what the floating island even was in the Sonic and Knuckles story? This is a narrative cheat if I ever saw one. Talk about a retcon. How could she have not known about the island if she was apparently best buddies with Knuckles long before Sonic even met him? Part of it is me being hung up on the games canon that I grew up with. I really feel like Sonic is the one who's supposed to be the first person Knuckles ever met on his island after Eggman. That's part of the significance to him, to Knuckles. He's not just some rival, he's also the first trustworthy person he's ever met, and that means he means a lot in his life. Not to mention Knuckles being isolated on his island and barely interacting with anyone was one of the most unique things about his character, but in the comic that's gone. Knuckles doesn't live alone, he never did. He has other people on his island which he's fine with. He's friends with the Chaotix, and I'm supposed to believe he used to be best buddies with Sally on top of that? Who isn't even from his island? Bullshit. Worst part is, this didn't even need to be the case. We could have easily not had Sally being friends with Knuckles before Sonic even met him, at least from what I'm guessing at this moment anyways. This could have been removed and only had it make more sense. And again, why'd Knuckles call her Princess Sally if he'd been friends with her for years? That sounds too formal for a friend. Anyway, Sally looks like a bitch by telling Sonic that that's none of his concern and shooing him away. Was she doing this because she didn't want Knuckles to get too far away from Sonic and wanted to rush him to go after Knuckles? Just say that then. She could have at least been more polite and said, "I'll explain later, don't get Knuckles, get away." And again, Sally being secretive like she was with her secret plan where she'd let Eggman try to turn into a robot to get a cure for it. She once again shows the secretive side by revealing that she didn't tell Sonic about her summers with Knuckles, even though they're friends, and even potential love interests at that. Sally still never mentioned to him that she already knows Knuckles really well. What is it with her and keeping secrets? You'd think this would be important enough to tell him after he met Knuckles for the first time. After Sonic and Sally have a shipping moment together from the fact that Sonic was jealous of her and Knuckles' old friendship, Sonic chases Knuckles down into the zone, and the two collect enough rings that they both go super. And And I see Knuckles didn't use the Super Emeralds to do so, meaning there's no attempt at an explanation for why he went Hyper instead of just Super. Well, okay, maybe it's because he's the guardian of the Master Emerald, so he has enough Master Emerald residue energy in his aura so that it acts like a Super Emerald. Super Emeralds are just Chaos Emeralds charged with the power of the Master Emerald. And who better than the guardian of the Master Emerald to have said power already in him? I doubt that was the intent, but at least it's possible to fill in the plot hole. At first I was worried that they had a fail moment by having Sonic and Knuckles turn Super without the Emeralds, but fortunately that's not the case. Then we get some more pages of them pointlessly fighting, with the only shiny moment that stands out to me being that I like the concept that Knuckles can use his whirling fists as wheels. That's a pretty cool magical power of his. But since they're both invincible, wouldn't they not be able to feel pain? But Sonic looks pretty clearly in pain here. Maybe them both being super form cancels each other out so that they can still cause each other pain and knock each other around. They just can't injure each other, because they're both invincible. They're only fighting to annoy each other out of anger, and not to literally try to injure each other. So it makes sense that they wouldn't see fighting as pointless when they can't kill their opponent. However, problem results when Sonic and Knuckles crash into each other in their super forms. Unimaginable raw energy erupts, bending time and space, and the walls containing the zone's reality begin warping wildly, causing the zone to swell and crack until it explodes. So basically they fought so hard that they destroyed a universe. Good thing they won't do that again. We cut to Eggman being told about an earthquake from a ridiculously high energy output. And we get possibly the most infuriating breaking the fourth wall moment in the comic so far, because we have a character have a perfectly good in-universe explanation for why Eggman would be upset, only for that to be thrown away in a fuck you, so that he can complain about not getting enough screen time. It makes sense that he'd be upset about losing out on Magic Rings and Chaos Emeralds, not sure why the swap out would know exactly which ones were there when he just saw energy output. But instead they throw that away so they can make an unfunny joke. I really don't care that Eggman didn't have enough screen time here. Because again, he's not a character. He's too one-dimensional and backstory-less to be a good villain, and he's not even entertaining enough to make up for it. At least Scourge has great dialogue. This is something that could have been cut out from the story and nothing would have been lost. Sonic wakes up perfectly fine in front of Sally despite destroying an entire zone and being thrown out of it earlier. Well, at least he doesn't feel well, so there's at least some attempt at logic. Unlike the complete lack of logic in Sally being all happy about him destroying his own without a trace. Did she get a kick out of that or what? Well, I guess it makes sense that with her being under constant pressure to maintain a prim and proper righteous hero reputation, she'd get a kick out of his own obliteration from someone she's attracted to. As a sort of dark side to her or something. An escape. Same reason she dressed up as an evil sorcerer for Halloween. It's then revealed that the camera Knuckles saw earlier actually is working, and was disguised to look like it wasn't. She explains that after Sonic and Knuckles had entered the zone, Sally rejoined Tails, who's actually allowed to make himself useful by monitoring his progress with a camera. A Chekhov's gun! That's how Sally knew it happened. And then her intelligence gets insulted by Sonic supposedly forgetting about something that's as big of a deal as Knuckles being old buddies with Sally, and revealing that he just wanted to know if he had chili dogs or something. They could have saved this by having Sonic reveal in a thought bubble that he was just lying and indeed did drop it like Sally arbitrarily told him to like a bitch. But they didn't. I like Sonic and Sally riding on the bike together at least. It's sweet that Sonic would want to do that just to spend quality time with her. That's gotta be the reason because he can run a lot faster than the bike. And the next panel insults our intelligence again by somehow having it be that Sonic and Knuckles' fight was the talk of the island, even though they had no way of knowing about it at all, or even knowing that the zone existed. The worst part is, again, this could have easily not been in the comic. They created a plot hole with filler. Filler, much like the entire story was. At least Knuckles got what he came for, having somehow left the zone with at least one Chaos Emerald. We then get a side story where we see Knuckles interacting with his father, who tells him that one day the Guardian job will fall on his shoulders, and introducing him to the Chaos Emerald Chamber somehow for the very first time. This flashback was here because Knuckles thought that Archimedes sounded a lot like his dad, having talked the same way about how only when he has all the pieces together himself will he be able to understand. And then he arbitrarily refuses to tell him the whole story because he's an idiot. Though Knuckles remarks that Archimedes' voice sounded different from his dad's. So if he is anyways, then that better be explained. After some kind of heartwarming moments where we see Knuckles' father genuinely trying to be a good mentor to him and help him, all that is immediately undermined by him outright abandoning him by going into the Forbidden Zone and ditching him for no reason. He says that he's answering to the call of their ancestors, even though their ancestors are long dead, so how'd they be able to call them? This had better be explained, and well enough to justify him being a horribly neglectful parent ditching him like that. And even then, there's no excuse for him not at least leaving him in someone's care, like a responsible parent would do. What kind of father ditches their son to live all alone when he's just a kid? At least we don't know how old Knuckles was when he ditched him, and he doesn't look too young, but still. The island had other people on it, apparently, so why not put him in someone else's care in case he, gets a broken leg? And the issue ends with Knuckles deciding that he'll get his answers if he finds Archimedes, who is arbitrarily hiding from him for some reason. He has some major Stockholm syndrome or something to still want to see his father again after he ditched him like that. But yeah, aside from some interesting additions to the Chaos Element lore, and the revelation that Archimedes reminds Knuckles of his father, this issue is pretty much filler. Sonic and Knuckles arbitrarily fight, making Sonic look like a paranoid jerk in the process. And Sally somehow being best buddies with Knuckles in childhood is so nonsensical that it just comes off as a Mary Sue moment. Because of course only Sally could have gotten that privilege to her. And this is coming from someone who so far kinda likes Sally and finds her to be a perfectly well-written character so far, from having clear major flaws. She can sometimes be a bitch, she makes stupid mistakes from her irrational desire to not look weak, and she's paranoid sometimes. Apparently overly secretive too, since she never told Sonic she used to be friends with Knuckles. What even caused him to stop spending his summers with her anyways? Well, I guess being a guardian of the Emerald. Needless to say, I really didn't like this issue, but at least got to have tons of fun picking it apart, judging from all the things I had to say about it, which is more than I could say for the 6-minute videos of most of the Tales miniseries. I guess you could say I have a lot more fun with stories for the son to talk about, good or bad, than stories that have not much to really say about and are just middle of the road. The main story was written by Mike Gallagher, which does explain the fourth wall breaking, and the father and son story was written by Mike Kantrovic and Ken Penders. Makes sense because it involves another echidna. Even though another echidna was also introduced in the Tales miniseries, which wasn't written by Penders. Next up is issue 30.